take on the darkness, stare down deceit. Murder in the headlines, justice in the beat. From cold case whispers to killers in disguise, we rip off the mask, expose all the lies. Facts like bullets reload and deliver. Truth cuts deep like a blade in a river. Corruption shakes when the mic goes live. We dig where others won't survive. Games rolling through the smoke. Truth hits hard, no time for a joke. Deceit, murder, we name every name. No restraint, no shame, just flame. Locked on the case, we investigate.
This is 12 Gauge Investigative. Let's jump in.
You'll ever need 12 Gauge Investigate. We make them bleed. No games, no censors, just truth. Justice is loud, and we're the sound. This is 12 Gauge Investigative.
Yeah, man. Happy Saturday, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well on this Saturday. My name is 12 Gauge, and welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. You know, today I wanted to cover something that I've been wanting to do this whole week, but due to the Idaho 4 stuff that's been coming out, just haven't really had a chance. So I had a little bit of time today, so I thought I'd go ahead and cover this case a little bit to let people know the newest update regarding baby Emmanuel. So let's go ahead and start with the newest news first, and we'll go from there. If you're coming into the chat, thank you for being here. Happy Saturday to you all. If you have no clue who those two individuals are, those are Emmanuel's parents. I think the mother's name is Rebecca, and I really don't know the father's name yet, but they were arrested, I believe, yesterday for the disappearance of their son. And we will dive into this. I just wanted to show you the arrest. So I guess there's not much sound. It looks like the sound has been redacted. There is their home. And also there was a interesting thing that happened across the street from this home. There was a home that actually burned to the ground. So there's been a lot of shady stuff happening around this house. Whether it's related, whether it's not, we'll have to find out together, because I really don't know a lot about this case, but that's one of the reasons I'm covering it.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news.
Okay, let's go with something that tells us a little bit about the story. Let's go with Politan, because he always seems to do a good story. And this little boy was precious. I can't believe anybody would want to hurt him. As far as what I've heard about this case is the dad has like 3 other suspected injury to children, and they've taken the children away. Um, I believe a cousin has 2 of the children, and she even renamed them. So let's listen to what the story is.
Little baby Emmanuel Harrow is just 7 months old. His mom, Rebecca, says she went to the sporting goods store and was in the parking lot trying to change his diaper when she was attacked and knocked out cold. When she came to, baby Emmanuel was nowhere to be found. How could a child abduction take place in such a public place? But yet, no one saw anything, not one witness, not one video. Now, the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department is investigating, and the focus of their investigation seems to have shifted to Emmanuel's parents, Jake and Rebecca, who now have a criminal defense lawyer representing them.
Okay, his name is Jake, and the mother's name is Rebecca. As you heard, she was shopping at a Big 12. She was shopping at a Big 12, and supposedly somebody came up behind her and said, "Hola." The next thing you know, she gets hit in the back of the head, and she also has a mark. No phone here. Check in the bathroom. Sorry about that. My nephew's looking for his phone. And she has a mark here that would later found suspicious. So let's go ahead and watch some more of this.
Where is baby Emmanuel, and who is responsible for the disappearance of this precious little boy? You know, watching this story as it's developed has reminded me of many other stories that we've covered and the dynamics. There was a case out in California, the Cal City toddlers, very similar to that in the way we first learned about the story and we learned about the disappearance of the child. In that case, it was the mother and father came out and were telling their story and answering questions. Well, the same thing happened in this case. Baby Emmanuel, gone, mom and dad standing out there, and I don't think they've necessarily spent a lot of time in front of cameras and microphones and the media and the public, et cetera, but telling their story and answering some questions. So let's begin there.
I mean, it's interesting. At first, people were thinking, I believe, that the story sounded legit. I mean, she went to change his diaper before running into the Big Five to get a mouthpiece for her stepson, who needed one to play football. As she was changing the diaper, she supposedly told authorities that she leaned over in the back seat, was changing the diaper. Somebody said hola. She goes to turn around, gets knocked unconscious. She wakes up. There's no baby Emmanuel. She goes into the store. She's asking around. She's looking for the baby. No child. And Aquarius said the baby was 7 months old.
Take a look at baby Emmanuel's mom and dad.
We come to you guys asking you to help us find our son. He was abducted last night from Big Five. Somebody struck my wife while she was trying to change his diaper. And we just ask if anybody knows anything to please contact Ukaipa Police Department.
Don't hesitate, just call.
His name's Emmanuel. He's 7 months. He's 7 months old.
Have you been notified of any information yet by the authorities? No, we have not. They haven't told us nothing.
They said they don't have any major updates.
Do you guys plan on doing a local search of your own? We are.
Yeah, we have
4 o'clock here at Kaiba.
The community set up a search party at 4:30. So we're afraid. Just ask you guys if you can help us. You know.
Please.
I mean, it's terrible. Can you imagine your 7-month-old child gets taken from you if that's indeed what did happen? The father has a history, of course. The mother, I haven't heard, has a history of anything, injury toward children or anything, but the father does. But we're still waiting to see what kind of charges these two were arrested on.
This is what he looks like. He's just a baby. Just give our son back, please.
He was wearing a black onesie with a Nike squish on him. If you know anything, please come forward. Please. Please bring us back our son. We're safe.
So that was the day after, right? So baby is reported missing, reported abducted the night before, and that's the following day, August 15th. And that brings us to the first question in our investigation, which is, what are baby Emmanuel's parents saying now? Now we're a few days into this. The investigation has begun. What are his parents saying now? Here to help answer that question, Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, who is live outside the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office, and freelance journalist Brandy Carlos, who's been on the scene and covering this story since the beginning. Thank you both. Matt, let me begin with you. What are they saying now? I understand you went to their house today.
Not saying much, Vinny, and that is quite the contrast from 6 days ago when this incident first took place, according to the mother, over at that Big Five Sporting Goods, when the 7-month-old baby Emmanuel, was ripped from her arms and she was beaten unconscious, according to her. Well, sheriff's deputies here at the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office here behind me, I have been in touch with them all day. They are pleading, asking for this family to come back to the table. They have since lawyered up and not answering their questions and not answering our questions. I want to show you what happened at their house earlier. This is the rural community of Cabazon. So we're located just off of the 10 freeway where the family has lived for several years. Right behind the home is the 10 freeway that links Los Angeles to Palm Springs. This home and the property has recently been searched by authorities. The family has lawyered up, no longer cooperating with police.
So the family has lawyered up. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're guilty of anything. It really doesn't. I mean, it's always good if you have any kind of involvement with law enforcement, whether it be something that you are not certain of the law or anything of that nature. It's always good to lawyer up. It's better to have a lawyer and not need one than need one and not have one. And I know people oftentimes look at people that lawyer up as guilty. It's not always the case.
What was that? How are you guys doing? Can you please answer any questions for us? Can you please answer any questions? Do you guys have any information about the baby? Have police updated you guys at all on the investigation? Can I get his information, please?
What do you think, Aquarius? You're the only one in here. What do you think about this case? And anybody else who's watching, feel free to come into the chat and intermingle with Aquarius. I mean, she's the only one in the chat right now.
The parents and the grandmother of the missing baby right there no longer cooperating with authorities, according to our sources, and not answering our questions. Yeah, Benny, I stayed there for quite some time. There were a lot of people lighting candles, bringing candles, teddy bears, things of that nature. There's a makeshift memorial for this missing 7-month-old baby. This has really rocked this community there in the Coachella Valley that is just outside of Los Angeles, about an hour, 2 hours away. It's on that stretch of road that is the 10 freeway, a main artery in Southern.
I believe why people are believing there is so much suspicion about this case is due to the fact that there were no security cameras at that Big Five. There was no security cameras in the parking lot. None of that. So instantly people are looking at that as being suspicious, that the mother would have known that there was no security cameras. So if they had something to do with it, they wouldn't have necessarily been caught on camera. That is unfounded at this time, so the search for this child continues.
In California, linking Los Angeles to Palm Springs. Their house is right off the freeway, and it's a rural area, but so many people are touched by this in this community, and they want answers. And as for that family, they are just sheltering in place, according to their attorney, and not answering our questions or the investigators here.
Brandy, let me ask you, what are you hearing from the parents? You've been there since the beginning, and I understand you were there during that very first, I don't know if it was a press conference or announcement that they were making. What have you heard from the mother and father?
I actually have not heard much from mom or dad. I did speak to the lawyer on Monday night. We had about a 20-minute phone call, and he addressed to me that the number one priority that these two parents are facing is they want to know where their child is. And there's a lot of public speculation, kind of leading up to what could have happened. And, in the public opinion, things are not looking so good for them.
And that's what's terrible. It's like instantly the public opinion either shifts for you and compassion, or it goes against you in the speculation of guilt and also hiding something. So these parents, after being arrested and lawyering up, they have a tough battle to go as far as the public opinion is concerned. Not that it matters for a lot of people, because honestly, people don't care what social media has to say. But like I said earlier, the father has a history, and two of the children are with the cousin. So does that play a role in this, or does it not? People can change. I mean, people have the capability, because there's no evidence of at this point to show either one of them had anything to do with this.
But the lawyer just was very adamant on, they're stuck inside their home. There's nothing they can do. He said that they have been complying and cooperating with authorities, handing phones over, having them come in the house. He said there was portions of the home where they had taken carpet, some stuff outside, a little bit of digging. They did have dogs search the property Friday afternoon. And as much as the lawyer had to say, the number one priority in this is, where is baby Emmanuel? He did tell me that there had been a sighting. I did see that mainstream news is finally releasing that information. So there was a sighting in Kern County. They have released that, but there has been no lead since then.
So, Brandy, the one question people have is, so this abduction is alleged to have taken place in that parking lot. Are there any witnesses? Are there any surveillance cameras that would be where they were exactly? Did anyone see her knocked out? Do we know how long she was knocked out?
We don't know how long she was knocked out, and the information that has been given to us by authorities is very limited. There are cameras in the area. It has been said.
Oh, okay. So there are cameras in the area. So that is false information. I'm glad she said that. Nobody's seen her knocked out. Nobody knows how long she was knocked out. So you just heard that. She said there are cameras in the area. Let's see what she continues to say.
That the cameras outside of the Big Five sporting goods store directly were not working.
Okay.
The business across the way that does face the front of that building is out of business. So
Okay.
I do believe, law enforcement, detectives, everybody who's investigating this case right now, I think they absolutely have what they have. I think they know what, they know more than we know, obviously.
Okay, so she said the Big Five, the cameras were not working. The business across the street was out of business. So there, in fact, were cameras. So the early report that there were no cameras in the area was a false narrative. There were cameras in the area. Big Five wasn't working. The other business was out of order or, out of business. So, of course, their cameras weren't working. So, I mean, there were cameras, they just weren't working.
And even though the community wants answers, they want to know, like, where's the footage? Where's the surveillance? They're not going to directly release that. There's been no Amber Alert issued, which kind of sort of tells us maybe there possibly isn't somebody that has kidnapped the child. I think if there was, that's something that would have been issued right away. But it also tells us that there is no information on who that person is, what they look.
Okay, so there's another bit of information. There has been no Amber Alert issued due to not knowing what the person looks like, what the vehicle looks like. So if people start jumping on that, there's a reason the Amber Alert wasn't issued. They have no description of the individual to give to the police or to the public to be able to be looking for this individual or vehicle. So there's a reason for that Amber Alert not to be issued. That's not suspicious at all.
Like what they were driving, that kind of thing. So we can only kind of speculate based on the information that's been given to us right now.
Right. If investigators had video of someone abducting them, right, there'd be an Amber Alert. We'd see maybe a license plate, a description, something like that. One more question, Brandy, to follow up on this. Who has anyone come forward as like the last person who saw Emmanuel other than mom and dad? Like maybe someone apparently they were at a football game right before she went to Big Five. She was at the nephew's football game. Anyone from there say, hey, yeah, I remember seeing baby Emmanuel there?
I've actually seen on social media, whether that's been, Instagram, Facebook, there have been numerous amount of people that did see them at the football park that day. They said that they did not see baby Emmanuel there. And there have been a lot of sightings, a lot of people coming forward saying they saw them, at a mall or they saw them at a park, but they never saw baby Emmanuel. I did see a video from a funeral that they all attended. I think it was about a week and a half prior to the kidnapping. Baby Emmanuel was also not present there. So I think the time frame on, when he was last seen by a family member or anybody in the community is really hard to determine at this point.
That's a huge fact.
That is a huge one, because if you haven't seen this child in over a week and a half, he wasn't at the funeral, he wasn't at the football game. So if he wasn't at the football game, nobody saw him. Where has he been for a week and a half?
Act in all of this. All right, great news. Matt and Brandy are going to stay with us. When we come back, are baby Emmanuel's parents actually cooperating here?
Matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law, Dan Markell.
Prosecutors say a bitter child custody battle was the motive for the murder-for-hire plot. Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
Now that the ship is really sinking fast, blood doesn't matter that much.
The Matriarch Mastermind Murder Trial. Live coverage begins this week, only on Court TV.
Don't hesitate, just call.
His name's Emmanuel. He's 7 months. He's 7 months old.
And they're the parents of Emmanuel.
One thing that I can't get over, and this is since the Susan Smith days. You know, when people get in front of the camera and they're crying for their children, that their children are lost, and you later find out that your child had been murdered by the family or a parent, it it kind of leaves a bad taste in society's mouth, because if you stand in front of that camera and you're pleading for your child's safety, that's one thing. But when society later learned that you had something to do with it, that's whenever people really don't trust the parents early on. I can see that. Let's see what Vinny got to say.
Looking for help. If you know anything, please come forward. Their lawyer went on Ashley Banfield's show on News Nation, and this is some of the things that he said here. I think it's interesting. And this is sort of responding to the fact that they're not cooperating. I don't know where that statement that they stopped cooperating came from. I spoke to the detectives yesterday, offered Jake to continue to speak with them, have not been made aware of any requests today to speak with Jake. Said both parents voluntarily turned over their electronic devices and their passwords. They have no reliable transportation. They don't have phones or internet to contact people because their devices have been taken. So how can they participate? Everyone's made up their mind and saying that they're refusing to do anything. Well, they can't. And that brings us to the next question in our investigation. Are baby Emmanuel's parents actually cooperating? We're kind of getting mixed signals here. Still with us to help in our investigation, Court TV Crime and Justice correspondent Matt Johnson, live outside the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office, and freelance journalist Brandy Carlos, who's been on the story from the beginning. Matt, so what I'm trying to get these two statements together. Do we know the genesis of why one side saying they're not cooperating and the other side saying they are cooperating? Maybe are they defining cooperation differently? Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe they are. I mean, it was only recently that they lawyered up, correct? Not in the beginning when Rebecca, the mother, was pleading for help and going through the timeline, according to her. Well, the initial statement from investigators here at the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office, let's put it on your screen. It's this, including investigators interviewed multiple individuals, including Emmanuel's parents, Jake and Rebecca Haro. During those interviews, Rebecca was confronted with inconsistencies in her initial statement and declined to continue with the interview.
Okay, so once again, I want to very quickly give you the differences between an interview and an interrogation. If you're not a suspect to a crime, then you're not going to be interrogated. If you haven't been placed under arrest or read your Miranda rights, you're not interrogated. An interview is basically when the police are asking questions from witnesses, parents, people that knew the baby, people that knew the family. Those are interviews, just getting facts, getting to know the individuals involved. So there's nobody that they can just drag into the police department and make them speak, including the parents, unless they're placed under arrest, read their Miranda rights, and then they're interrogated. But they still have a lawyer, so they still don't have to speak. They do have the Fifth Amendment right. So try to remember that.
At this point in the investigation, investigators are unable to rule out foul play in the disappearance of Emmanuel. So right there, you have investigators putting forefront that all talk stopped. Yes, you have this attorney now saying that they turned over their cell phones and that the car, perhaps with Jake, was also confiscated. We also know that there has been police searching, sheriff's deputies searching their property on more than one occasion. So, I mean, I'm not sure why their attorney is saying that they are cooperating when you have this first statement from investigators here saying they stopped talking right away.
And has the sheriff's office said anything today or more recently about the level of cooperation?
Yeah, I've been in close contact with investigators here all day long. And they released another statement after my last inquiry. So they said this: we know that the community is deeply concerned about this case, and we will continue to provide information to the extent that it does not jeopardize our investigation. Our investigators have followed up on the reported sightings of the 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro, but he has not yet been located.
Okay, so there has been sightings. They have been looking at the resident. They've been looking around the resident. So, I mean, if the family was not cooperating, they wouldn't have allowed that. You know what I mean? Because honestly, you can deny that access. You have, if they want to look at something that obviously they believe a crime has been committed, they can't just search your property without your consent. So I bet they let them look at the property because, they might not have anything to hide. And if this comes back as they had something to hide, we will all figure it out then. But at this time, they have not found any evidence to state otherwise. I wonder what led to arrest. The dumpster. That's an interesting question. I don't know anything about this case very well. I'm just commenting on as we go along, but I don't know about what you're talking about, the dumpster.
While Emmanuel's father has retained an attorney, if the parents choose to work with detectives, we welcome their cooperation as we continue efforts to locate Emmanuel. So again, right here, you have investigators out of the sheriff's office, San Bernardino County, saying the parents stepped away from answering our questions. They're not cooperating right now, but we welcome them and whatever information that they can provide moving forward.
Okay. Let's put this up on the screen. This is from KTLA. And what Matt was just reporting, that the SBSD Specialized Investigations Division interviewed multiple people, including Rebecca, Jake, the inconsistencies. They confronted her, and then she stopped talking. Like, I kind of understand that. If they start accusing you, you're probably going to stop talking. When authorities asked her to take a lie detector test, her husband reportedly refused to request until a lawyer was present. Brandy, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I believe the inconsistencies played a role in that, and also if they found baby clothes with any kind of evidence that would show foul play, but they've stated so far no foul play has been reported, and they've reported seeing the child on numerous occasions, but the tips have gone cold. So we're still waiting to see where this leads to.
Here on the cooperation, the level of cooperation, and in what direction investigators are going right now?
I do believe early on, baby Emmanuel went missing on Thursday. That's when it was reported. Friday is when we kind of got to see the parents, on TV. The first initial statement that we did receive with any information from authorities was that statement, about them not cooperating anymore, refusing until they, sought out some kind of legal counsel. So I thought.
Once again, when people lawyer up, or when they say, you know what, we've gone too far, this is getting too much to be almost an interrogation, it's no longer just an interview, let me get a lawyer so that, I don't incriminate myself. Due to the inconsistencies, I'm sure she probably thought, well, you know what, it's starting already. They're trying to get me in a mindset where they're not believing my story or whatever. Like I said, I don't know the story well enough to know whether she did it, whether the husband did it, whether they know what happened to the child. I think it's an interesting story. But the fact that they lawyered up, it's not suspicious at this point to me.
It was kind of interesting when I did speak to the lawyer on Monday night. He said that he could not speak for both parents. He could only speak for Jake because he was only representing him. So I don't know if there hasn't been any cooperation going on because Rebecca does not have counsel currently. Maybe she's still looking. That is all kind of unknown, I think.
And that's a great point there, that the lawyer is doing the right thing. You can't represent both, because if there are charges here at any point, the interests of mom and dad are going to be very, very different, and each would need their own counsel. So that's really interesting right there. Let's take a look at this also from KTLA. Deputies from the San Bernardino and Riverside County Sheriff's Departments launched an extensive search deploying helicopters and canine units, though ultimately neither the child nor a suspect were located. So it seems like there was a search based upon the story told by mom. It continues. While investigators are being tight-lipped about the investigation, the child's grandmother, who insists the parents are innocent, told KTLA that deputies have searched the couple's residence with cadaver dogs, and it was later learned that officials removed the Harrow's 2-year-old child from their custody while the investigation is pending. So, Brandy, let me ask you about that. Are there any ongoing searches, either being run by the parents or by law enforcement, for the man who allegedly said "Hola" and then knocked her out and stole the child? Or is everything seemingly at this point focused on the search of the residents and things connected to the parents?
I do believe authorities and local law enforcement, I believe they're doing everything they can. I mean, you have to realize that they do a lot of stuff by tech. They have their cell phones. I'm sure they are dissecting them. They're going through them. They can see all the locations that they've been for the past however many months. So I do feel that
I mean, the questions I have at this point is, how close are they to the border? Is there a huge trafficking situation there? Has there been a lot of abductions? Have there been any abductions in that parking lot, in that shopping center? All these things, to see exactly if there's a pattern, if there's somebody snatching children, what all that has to do with this abduction. And I'd like to know what your questions are, if you have those in the comments, or if you're watching on some other platform, be sure to comment in the chat. I'd like to hear from you.
authorities are actively searching. They know what they're looking for, and they're not going to come out and tell us what they're looking for either. So again, they probably know a lot more than we do. But as far as the community goes, the community has been amazing. From everybody reporting that they saw them at certain locations. I know a lot of people have gone out looking in ditches, or just looking in areas, looking in dumpsters. There's been all these things that have been speculated about being seen, but we just I just urge everybody to continue keeping their eyes open. If you see something, say something, please report it. And you just never know. Businesses, they were seen at a lot of businesses locally within, the past week and a half leading up to this event. So if you are in the Banning, Beaumont, Yucaipa, Cherry Valley area, as a business owner, check your cameras, see if you saw something.
Matt Johnson, if in fact something happened to little Emmanuel and someone disposed of his body, we're talking about an incredibly large area. This is almost like a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, we're located in the Coachella Valley where this happened, outside of Palm Springs, and San Bernardino County, where these deputies serve this community. It's the largest county in the country. I grew up in San Bernardino County, and I can tell you that they are very forthcoming with information. I also worked in the LA market as reporter anchor for many, many years. And if there were surveillance photos of someone abducting this child, I can, just in my own experience working here, I would imagine that they would be spread all over the TV and shared widely by now. So that is something that's top of mind for everybody in this community. But it is a very vast area, and they're in a remote.
And one thing about the cameras that I know are going to be starting to speculate, and people are going to have thoughts about it, is how would the abductor know that the cameras at the Big Five weren't working? And how would the abductor know that there was no cameras in the whole area? Because they said there was cameras. So there was probably cameras. They just were not working. The Big Five cameras didn't work. The business across the way, it was out of business, so their cameras were off, obviously. So if this was an inside job, how did they know that those cameras were off? And how would anybody know that those cameras were off? Because if those cameras are seen from the outside, how would you know whether they work or whether they don't? That is a question that I have.
Area along the freeway right next to the Morongo Native American reservation there.
Matt Johnson working hard for us. Thank you so much. Brandy Carlos doing incredible work covering the story. Appreciate it. Up next, does the mother's story make sense? I'm Vinny Politan. We continue our investigation of the disappearance of baby Emmanuel, just 7 months and now missing. Mom says she was assaulted and the baby was kidnapped in public. Here's the story. Rebecca and Jake Harrow have several children. The youngest is just 7 months old. His name is Emmanuel, and he is missing. Emmanuel's mom says she knows what happened. She was in the parking lot of a Big 5 sporting goods store and was trying to change the baby's diaper. That's when she was attacked and knocked out cold. And when she came to, Emmanuel was nowhere to be found. Now investigators are focusing a lot of attention on the parents because they say mom's story is full of inconsistencies. Where is baby Emmanuel, and who is responsible for the disappearance of this precious little boy?
Also, as well as you know, if they're casing out, or canvassing, should I say, they're canvassing the area, so they're going to be able to see if mom actually did drive up to the Big 5, you know, how long she was possibly there, if there was cameras that showed her driving up to the retail store. You know, as well as other cases, we have seen where they canvass a huge amount of area to be able to see the direction the vehicle went through and went to. So, you know, call it. So, you know, if there's a McDonald's or Starbucks or anything like that on that main road, they would have been able to canvass, hopefully, and see these cameras and be able to know, okay, we saw the mom's vehicle heading at this time, and possibly they could maybe see in the back if there was any kind of definitive clothing they could have seen or anything like that. I mean, I know it's a long shot, but you know as well as I do, they have the capacity to do a lot of interesting things these days regarding these investigations.
So looking at this story, it really comes down to one of two scenarios, right? You've got one scenario where the baby was abducted. You've got another where the parents are lying about the abduction and something happened to that baby and they are the ones responsible. Now, they're not saying they don't know what happened, mom and dad. They're saying they know exactly what happened. Matt Johnson is out there in California and, as you saw, was at the home of Emmanuel's parents and went from the home to the scene of this alleged abduction. Let's take a look.
So now we're behind the wheel of our rental car. I want to show you just how close the alleged kidnapping spot is at the Big 5 to their house. We've been driving for about a half an hour on the 10 freeway. We've exited. Now we're in the city of Yucaipa. We're approaching the alleged crime scene, according to the baby's mother. The Big 5 sporting goods parking lot. Here it is up front here. We're going to pull in and we're going to continue our investigation. Okay, so the first thing that I noticed when we get out of the car is that this is a really busy area. So this is Yucaipa Boulevard. This is the main thoroughfare in this small desert community where this all happened. And we are in the parking lot for the Big Five. This would have been similar lighting conditions. It happened at around 7:40, according to the mother. And it happened here where there's a lot of street lights, a lot of cameras, and notice it's right next to a Big Lots and also an AutoZone. Someone must have seen something. On Thursday, August 14th.
Oh, yeah. If they were canvassing the area, I'm sure they got some kind of camera footage. Hopefully they did. That would be very helpful in the finding of this infant. Man, this is a terrible story, and I hope that whoever is out there that knows something, give the police a tip that they're looking for.
Rebecca Haro says that she was here in this parking lot over at the Big Five Sporting Goods in Yucaipa. She says that she was parked in one of these spots, changing the diaper of her baby, Emmanuel. And that's when someone walked up from behind. They hit her head. They knocked her unconscious, according to what she told police. When she came to, the baby, just 7 months old, was missing.
Changing the diaper.
Okay, if they hit her head, did she have a laceration? Did it break the skin? Did it cause bleeding? Is there any issues in the scalp area that show she was actually hit? I know we saw the bruise under her eye. It was blackened. But what did that have to do? Did she fall forward and hit something as she was going down? But if she was hit in the back of the head, that's interesting to me. If there is a laceration or if there is any kind of breakage in the skin, you know, if she had to get any kind of medical help due to that being hit in the back of the
In
head.
the parking lot. She says she didn't see anything. Everything went white. She got knocked out. All she heard was a man say, "Hola." And then she's knocked out cold, down and out. That brings us to the next question in our investigation. Does the mother's story make sense? Here to help answer that question, criminal defense investigator, he's the best, Charles Middlestack, and the host of Hidden True Crime, Lauren Mathias. Great to have you both here. Lauren, I'll begin with you. What do you think of the story? What about the story do you not believe or believe? How does it sound to you? Does it make sense?
It's a great question. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The things that don't make sense, Vinny, honestly, so she's saying that it just went white, right? That she was attacked. She doesn't recognize a person. She didn't hear anyone. That her sister is stating she was hit in the face. She was hit in the head. How? Where did she land? And she just came to. All she saw was white. She didn't see anyone. Nobody else saw anyone. Matt took us out there. We just saw how many businesses are around this parking lot. And she can't tell us a single thing about this person, only that they said hola.
Of course, Lauren. And also, you know, if somebody comes up to you, they naturally have a scent, whether it be body scent, whether it be body odor, whether it be cologne, whether it be body spray, whatever. Somebody comes up close to you, you're going to be able to smell something, even if you don't see them. I might be off course there, but you know, I would believe that if I'm changing the baby's diaper and somebody comes up and says hola, the wind coming behind them as they're walking up is gonna signal something.
Nothing. That doesn't make sense to me.
All right, Charles, does this make sense to you? And what would you do to try to figure out if she's telling the truth?
Well, the first thing I'd want to do is gain a good understanding from her of exactly how she alleges that this transpired. So the changing of the diaper is something that I'd want to better understand. I have changed plenty of diapers in my life. And I know that you can't change a diaper while a child's in a car seat. You have to remove them from the car seat and ideally lay them on a flat surface, which likely would involve maybe going to the other side of the car where you would have a seat that didn't have a car seat in it, and you could lay the child down and you could actually, appropriately change a diaper. So I'd want to understand, I'd want to have her sort of walk through what that looked like. She didn't say she was in the process of at least.
I have questions. Is the dirty diaper in the vehicle? Did she get to that point of changing the diaper? Did she have the diaper off? Did the baby have the clean diaper on? Did she get that far? Or was she just merely about to change it? The baby was gone, diaper and all, dirty diaper and all. Also, she's a bigger woman, right? So it would have been harder, just like this gentleman said, to reach over her, grab the baby, and take off. It would have taken some time. So did she get knocked into the car? Did she get knocked on the concrete? If you're taking the baby, isn't the baby going to start crying? Isn't somebody going to hear the baby crying? I mean, 7-month-old baby, they're not very quiet, especially if you're not around their mother.
My understanding is she didn't say she was in the process of removing the child from the car seat to change the diaper. So I'd want to understand the mechanics of all that. And then as Lauren just talked about, the process of being struck in the head. Obviously, she's provided no ID, claims that she saw nothing, knows nothing of her assailant, of the child's abductor. And so, and the injury that she has below her eye would suggest that she was struck in the face, which would be inconsistent with being struck in the back of the head and not being able to provide any sort of ID whatsoever. So again, want to understand all of that and really flesh that out, challenge her on certain aspects of that story so that ultimately we would decide what type of statement makes sense and what doesn't.
That's what I have the question. Where was she struck in the head? Was she struck in the back? Like back here by this ponytail? Did they struck her in the side of the head? I mean, in the side of the face, because usually if somebody says I'm hit in the face, they say face, they don't say head. Usually the head starts from the crown area all the way to the back. So I'm just curious where they would have struck this individual. I'm just focusing on that. Y'all know how I get. I start focusing on something because it sticks out to me, and I just stay fixated until I found out that that's not true, and then we move on.
Doesn't make any sense about it. Let's take another listen to a piece of the story that they told to the public.
He was abducted last night from Big 5. Somebody struck my wife while she was trying to change his diaper. And we just ask if anybody knows anything to please contact Ukaipa Police Department.
Don't hesitate, just call.
Lauren, what are your thoughts of the demeanor? I don't know what their baseline is. We've never met them before. I'm sure they have not spent a lot of time, public speaking and all of that. So I get that. So what did you take away from their mannerisms, the way they delivered this to the public?
Thanks for asking that. I'll share exactly what I think. A diaper, really? A diaper? This is a man trying to sound, in my opinion, very sort of sweet and childlike and gushy, when we also know that he has child abuse convictions as well from another one of his children. So it's really hard for me to sort of accept this tone. We see these tears. And look, I want to say this. Nobody knows how they would act in this situation. Very few people know because we haven't been faced with this. And people grieve differently. But while they are sort of crying and not able to catch their breath and weeping, whatever is going on, Child Protective Services is also taking their 2-year-old out and making sure their 2-year-old is safe. And it's just, the whole thing is very hard to swallow for me watching them on these multiple interviews. And I don't think I'm the only one.
Yeah, that's been the overwhelming reaction. Charles, how important is the last proof of life of Emmanuel? I know many parents and grandparents, like there's a picture every day of our children. We have phones, we have a bottomless supply of film these days. Not like the old days, Charles, when you and I were growing up, right? Parents these days, lots of pictures. I mean, that's one way, right? Like if you took a picture of the baby, it would be timestamped. Sure. Or if someone other than mom and dad can say, hey, yeah, I saw Emmanuel here or there. To me, that is such an important fact. How important do you think it is for the investigation in trying to figure out if this story is true or not?
I think it's everything. And I think that's probably where these, quote, inconsistencies are coming from. I think law enforcement has probably tried its best to this point to ascertain the sort of patterns that this family engages in, whatever those patterns may be, whether there's daycare involved or dropping child off.
Let's hope that some of the sightings, that somebody was mindful enough to take pictures of the person with the child. Hopefully they were mindful enough, like they say, see something, say something.
At a grandparent's house, or maybe a neighbor assisting in some babysitting, whatever that looks like, whatever those patterns are. But absolutely identifying the last person who saw that child alive becomes, I think, the most critical part. And then you work forward from there in terms of trying to determine movement, activities, location. This older son, the son that was playing football, the one that was allegedly the cause of going to the Big Five sporting goods store. I think that is probably your star witness in this case at this point. The 2-year-old is probably.
And also, Vinny said that they didn't have a vehicle, they didn't have any of that stuff currently because the police took it. So I'm sure they're dusting for print, they're dusting for DNA, they're trying to see if there's any kind of foreign forensic evidence in that vehicle that could lead them to some kind of perpetrator.
Probably not going to have a lot of value to the case, but that son, whatever age he may be, I think is really important. And I'm certain that law enforcement has spent some time with him trying to understand what his observations were. And obviously he's very susceptible to a lot of pressure from law enforcement to get to the truth of the matter in terms of what was happening.
And Lauren, a lot of people have been talking about this as well. The actual poster they were holding up, I don't know if you noticed, like the headline says "missing kid." We talk about missing kids all the time, but I've never seen an actual poster with the picture on it that says "missing kid." I don't know. Is it just me, or do you think that's a little strange?
No, it's weird. It's way weird. I mean, a missing child would have been better than missing kid, and then you throw in the fact that this is an infant, 7 months old. I think most of us actually refer to that as a baby, or an infant, or a 7-month-old. You know, that's when you say, how old is your baby? 7 months old. You know, once they hit a kid, maybe say a year. This is a baby that you identify with how many months old it is. It's not a kid. You know, it's an infant. It's the most vulnerable human being, on this planet. And no, I thought it was very dismissive. And then this sort of contradiction of like missing kid. Oh, but we were changing its diaper. I'm struggling.
Laura Mathias, Hidden True Crime, thank you so much. Charles Middlestat, great to catch up with you. Great to see you. Thanks so much. Still to come, where should police be looking?
Matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Donna Adelson is facing.
Do you guys plan on doing a local search of your own? We are. At 4 o'clock here at Kaiba.
The community set up a search party at 4:30. So We're ready to just ask you guys if you could help us,
Please.
So those are Emmanuel's parents talking about, and that's the day after, right? That's the 15th. That is that disappears at night, is reported missing at night, and that's the following.
So there's 8 days already that have gone by since the baby was reported missing.
Day, and they're organizing a search at 4:30 that day, which is interesting to me because that's based upon the abduction theory. But if the child's abducted, would you be looking? What are you looking for? I don't quite follow that. Jake, the father's lawyer, was on with Ashley Banfield on News Nation, and Hughes is the lawyer. Vincent Hughes said that Harrow, the father, feels like no one is listening to him and question whether the cops are doing enough. The reason I'm on the show, to be very clear, is they're begging for the public to help. They're begging for people to provide information. And that brings us to the next question in our investigation, and it's about the police investigation. Where should police be looking right now? Here to help with our investigation, forensic death investigator and the host of the very popular Body Bags podcast, Joseph Scott Morgan, and retired FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon. All right, Bobby, if you were called in on this case, where would you be looking based upon the two theories, right? There's one theory the parents could be involved. The other theory is that there was an abduction here.
Yeah, well, if you buy the abduction theory, there is no place to search. Like you said, Vinny, if the theory would be, I don't know, a trafficker or whatever gets this kid into a car and then takes off in the car. So they're not going to be in the nearby woods. They're not going to be in the families. Now, if the parents are involved, what you do is you take cadaver dogs out to the property, and that's where we see police have been searching. So we know what theory they're working under. And that's the natural theory because, the mother's story doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. For a person to lose consciousness, they have to be hit so hard in the head that they would sustain a much more significant injury than this mother has apparently suffered. And so, they're going by the theory that this woman had something to do with the abduction. So therefore you look at the property, you bring cadaver dogs, you bring tracking dogs, you search the property, you get search warrants, which is what they've done. The other theory, the abduction theory, there's not much to do unless somebody saw a car, the kid being put in the car, or you have video from the parking lot of that shopping center. If they have video of that Big Five of this woman coming into that store without the kid, they've got some hard questions for her.
Yeah, Joseph Scott Morgan, let's go under the theory that investigators perhaps are looking for a body, right? I mean, it's the reality, right? If they're looking for a body, and we don't know how long the baby may have been gone, what are they likely to recover at this point out there in the Coachella Valley? How are you looking at this?
Well, I mean, there's certainly not enough time has passed for there to be a tremendous amount of decay. You would still have biological evidence that would be there, certainly stuff that's recoverable, and certainly something that could tell a Emmanuel story just from a trauma standpoint. I think, Bobby had hit on how they're searching the property. Along with dovetailing with that, I'm going to be all over these vehicles. The one thing I found in that investigation, if people are involved in the death of an individual, one of the things that you want to do is try to put as much distance between themselves and the decedent as possible. Anytime that involves a vehicle, if there's any kind of biological evidence, now we have to assume that family vehicles, you're going to find this child's DNA in it. But I'm talking about things like blood, this sort of thing. And you have to be able to explain that from a physical, how did the blood from this child arrive inside the interior of the vehicle? There's no known trauma in the past. So I'm going to be looking really hard at the vehicle and also continue to search around the property. And where are the parents prone to go? You and I actually covered a case a couple of years back about a family that went camping, it seems like to me, and the father disposed of remains in an area where they knew they were familiar with camping. Right, so you have to look at those patterns of behavior what isolated areas to.
And since he's talking about patterns, it's not a good thing for the father to have those previous cases on his record. I mean, that puts up a red flag automatically. And the mother's inconsistencies, I mean, those two things just don't add up. But we also have to take into account people are not very educated these days. They're not very bright when it comes to living among society. And when I say that, I don't mean that they're illiterate. I just mean that people don't take into account that they live one way while the law enforcement is looking at this in another spectrum. So whenever you're giving a story, you may relay this story as simple as possible, but the more questions the law enforcement gives or asks you, the more jumbled up you get because you don't really understand the capacity of the interview that you're in. So it's a good thing that they lawyered up, or at least the husband lawyered up. The mother's without a lawyer at this point. Hopefully she gets a lawyer because, I mean, if they're not involved, the last thing you would want to see is them being dragged through the mud, as so many other parents have been regarding missing children. There's been no updates as far as finding anybody. Nobody has seen any abduction. The cameras, like I said, at Big Five were not on or working. The business across the way, the business was off, or out of business. So they didn't have cameras. So hopefully the canvassing of the neighborhood will be able to give the police something. We'll be able to see if the mother indeed was seen driving around the time that she said she was at the Big Five. So let's continue on.
Day access, maybe no one else.
And Bobby, they've also taken the possession of the phones, and I don't know if they'll be able to track the whereabouts. And if they were in the vehicle, like Joseph Scott Morgan was talking about, if there are locations that they're going to begin to search in that area, what are the challenges in that part of the country?
Well, I live here. I live in the Coachella Valley, and it was 114 degrees here today. And I have coyotes that run through my backyard almost daily. So you have heat. That's the main thing here. You heat. It's 114, 115 degrees every day. If a child is left outside, like the doctor said, you're going to have decomposition. You're going to have the heat. You know, the heat destroys everything out here. The sun is so strong. Unless you bury something, it's gonna be eaten up by the sun. The second thing is, they've not only seized the phones, which you're right, they can see what cell sites those phones have been hitting off of, and hopefully they're looking at their bank records. Did they get gas somewhere, during the ensuing days or preceding the child's supposed disappearance? Because we don't really know when the child was last seen. So they're going to be looking at, did they stop and get gas? Did they stop at a convenience store somewhere? They're going to be pouring over all of those kind of records to see what direction these people were living in, if they took a trip recently, if they traveled anywhere where they needed to get gas or supplies, because generally they want to drive a distance, like the doc said, put distance between themselves and the child's body.
Joe Scott Morgan, we have about 15 seconds left here. How optimistic are you that they'll be able to find baby Emmanuel?
Alive. Very low. I think at this point remains. This child's baby is so fragile. And as Bobby pointed out, this is a hostile environment environmentally. It's going to be an uphill climb for the investigator.
Joseph Scott Morgan, Body Bags Podcast, Bobby Chacon. Great to have you both on the show. Thank you so much. Now, as I mentioned, there are just two possibilities here. Mom is telling the truth, and some man abducted this child. And at this point, that may be what everyone is actually hoping for, because under that possibility, Emmanuel may still be alive. The second possibility is that the parents are lying and Emmanuel is dead. This is the rare situation where a child abduction is actually the best outcome. I'm Vinny Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.
Okay, let me catch y'all up to speed. Those of you that just came in and have probably been following this case. The mom and the husband have been arrested. The husband has lawyered up. Um, Supposedly, mom was hit over the head. Someone said hola, hit her over the head, knocked her out, took baby Emmanuel. She woke up. He was nowhere to be seen or heard from. Once again, there's no cameras there are cameras at the Big Five. They just weren't working. The business across the way, the cameras were not on because that business was I keep saying out of order. The business was shut down. So there wouldn't have been any cameras to show otherwise. But that you saw, there was plenty of other businesses. There's a Big Lot, there's an AutoZone. There are cameras in the vicinity. So possibly somebody saw something, heard something. Um, so hopefully they are able to see either the abduction driver driving off. Maybe somebody was driving by this person, saw the baby crying, somebody holding the baby. I mean, let's just hope for the best because it's been 8 days. But like Vinny said, it's either an abduction or the parents have something to do with it. Um, so we're gonna shift gears on this channel. I think we're gonna start going with this case because it seems to be a lot of different circumstances. The mom has inconsistencies. The father has prior history with losing custody of the children due to his um, abusive ways. And in no means am I saying that either one, the father or the mother, has anything to do with the disappearance of this child. We don't know at this point. There's been no conclusive evidence to show otherwise, other than the inconsistencies. And I have to look into what caused the arrest, and then we will know why they were arrested. They could have been arrested for warrants or something of that nature. We don't know. But I will keep digging into this case, and I will be presenting it as I get information. Um, so, no, the mom didn't see who knocked her out. Supposedly, the person hit her in the back of the head, but she has a bruise right here under her eye. So, what I was saying is, um, did she have a laceration in her skull? Did she have any breaks in her hair? Stuff like that. So I'm going to continue to look into this case. If you are in the Discord, we will probably start the movie or the Dexter series tonight about 8 o'clock. We will go probably a couple of hours, see where that lands us, and then we will continue that weekly until we finish it or until people get tired of it. But that's all I have for you at this point. Y'all, please unsubscribe and subscribe if you're having issues with your notifications because, a lot of people aren't getting them. You have to click the notification button if you want to get notified of this channel's continued coverage of this case or other cases that we cover. I am shifting gears because, there's really nothing on that Idaho 4 case unless some body cam video comes out where they actually show the sheath. Um, I'm pretty good with where we're at on that case. So y'all be sure to stick around and get notification to the channel. I do a lot of different cases on this channel. Like, subscribe, and share if you're not already a part of the channel. We have a great chat community here. They're very open-minded and they're very kind. So come on in if you've been listening and lurking, I guess they call it, and you want to chat, feel free. You're not going to get attacked here. Okay, so like I always say at this point, Maestro, cue that music.